everyone. Welcome back to A&D's World. We are
Dennis.
and Alicia, and this is a series where we share our story with you all. Today is going to be another very special story because we're going to share with you all our wedding story, and to be specific, how exactly we planned our wedding in 48 hours. Before we move ahead and share with you all our story, I want to ask you a question. I've seen in any culture, like here now in America, back home, I'm sure in Ghana as well, regardless of where we come from, wedding is a big celebration. And people put in a lot of effort and energy into planning the wedding. So, as I was prepping for today's shoot, I wondered like how much preparation is actually needed. How much time is actually needed to have that perfect wedding. Because some people get engaged and then start planning right away a year before, or even in that wedding planner book that we had, it said I think like 9 months, right?
9 to 18.
9 to 18 months. So how much preparation is actually needed? Let us know in the comments what you guys think. So with our wedding story, as we mentioned briefly in our last video, since 2019 when we got engaged, and more so towards beginning of 2020, we had already started planning for our wedding. We wanted to include some of our close family and friends, which was 300. And I think if we hadn't stopped, we would have gone more than that. But we wanted to include people that are important in our lives in the wedding. But as we all know, COVID happened. We kept delaying the wedding. We were like, okay, once things will get a little normal, then we'll start planning again and all of that. But 2021 came around and nothing seemed like was getting, it didn't seem like it was getting better anytime soon. And a lot of our family and friends are still back home in Nepal and Ghana. I have family in different parts of countries, friends whom I wanted to invite, and they were having a hard time like getting visa interviews, or even like the country being on lockdown and things like that. So January 2021 came around, and then February we had very subtly started talking about, okay, so what are we going to do, right? Like in terms of wedding, because we had bought a house, we were living together, we were engaged. At that point, we were we were positive that we want to get married. Um, so the point was, okay, do we wait to have the big wedding and the celebration with everyone, or should we just get married and do the celebration later? But again, even to do just a small wedding, it wasn't easy at that time due to COVID. There were a lot of restrictions with the number of people, restrictions with where we want to get married, and things like that.
It was obvious we weren't going to be able to have the big wedding that we wanted to because we didn't have control over COVID and when it was going to end. So we started putting out feelers. Anytime we talked to family, we would kind of bring it up just to say, hey, we might get married, but it's probably going to be something small just for the two of us. And anytime we mentioned anything like that, we had resistance from the rest of the family saying, no, I want to be there. No, I want to be there. What about this person? What about this person? This person needs to be there. So it something we wanted to do small, which would be just us two. Everyone wanted everyone there, and that meant waiting to do the big one. So we were kind of caught in limbo, whether defying everyone already and creating more hardship for ourselves, or just waiting and just having everyone present, having everyone on board. Because remember, not everyone was still on board with us being together. In fact, all the people that weren't on board whilst we met got engaged, and after engagement were still not on board. So they weren't even in the picture. Those that were in the picture wanted us to wait till everyone was on board, or at the least wait until COVID was over so we could have a lot more people together and have a celebration, because weddings are a big thing everywhere in the world. So we were in that limbo, and there was on a Monday we had been snowed in, so we didn't have work. We were both home, and it dawned on me that we could be waiting for the next 3 years because no one knew when COVID was going to end. And literally, and in all aspects of the word, we were married. It just wasn't legal.
Mm-hmm.
So we decided, all right, the family wants one thing, we want another thing. The right thing to do is also one thing, but we're going to get married. We're going to do a small wedding. We're going to invite the least amount of people we can to have a wedding without getting everyone upset at us. And then take it from there. Once COVID clears up, whether in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, then we can have a celebration and include all the other aspects of the Nepali, the Ghanaian wedding, and then the American wedding that we missed or we left out. So that would be the Mehendi, the Sangeets, the Ghanaian engagement, the white reception. We could include all that at a later date. So we talked about it briefly, and we were like, all right, let's do it. So then I started browsing, looking up if we wanted to do it, what are the options. We had the church as an option. We had we had the legal means, so going to the court and then getting married as an option. But the only problem with that was there was a long wait because there were a lot of COVID weddings happening. So there was a long wait for us to get a date. So it would have been about 3 to 5 months for us to get a date to do that wedding. So we're like, okay, what other options do we have? Then the other option was to use the church. And with the church, they also had their own restrictions as to when you can have a wedding and the availability, because there are always events happening at the church. So I'm like, all right, those are the two options. It looks like the best option to use would be the church, and then we can figure out the rest from there. So I called. Obviously, it's Monday. It snowed. The church was closed. Everywhere was closed, so we couldn't make any phone calls. On Tuesdays, I called the church. I didn't get them because I think they were still catching up from the snow. So I left a voicemail. They called me back and said, oh, it's not possible. We're completely booked for the next 2 months. So I'm like, all right, I guess this is really not meant to happen. So then I decided, all right, I have other levers to use, so let me try to use those levers and see how far that goes. So I called my chosen mom. I called my chosen sisters. I told them, hey, this is what I'm thinking about. Do you guys know anyone in the church that you could talk to and kind of fast track these processes for us? So my white mom made a couple of calls, and so on Wednesday I was at work, and then I get a call from the church saying this is hard. We don't have any time, but we have 2 available 1-hour slots on Thursday and 1 on Friday. Would that work for you? Mind you, we had just been theoretically talking about this, so no actual planning had happened for this to happen. And she was literally giving us, and this was around Wednesday afternoon, so she was literally giving us about 12 to 48 hours to say yes, we want to do it on Thursday, or yes, we want to do it on Friday. So obviously I said Thursday is not an option because it's tomorrow and we don't have anything planned. So the best option would be Friday, but let me call you back to confirm. So I picked up the phone and I called you.
Yep. So I was at work and Dennis calls me, which is rare. Dennis only calls when it's urgent or emergency. I answered the phone and he said, "Hey, do you want to get married on Friday?" I was like, sure. Because, he mentioned we had been talking and I knew I wanted to get married to Dennis, so there was no other answer. I was like, all right, let's do it. So obviously it was on a Friday, work day, so I had to take the day off. And at my work, we had to fill out this little slip, like the day, why you're taking a day off and things like that. So I filled out the form. I went to my boss's office and I gave the form to him. And at the end, where I had to write the reason, there was a little slot. So I said, in caps, I wrote, "I'm getting married," with exclamation. So, he has the paper, he's reading, okay, date, like off, blah, 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 all of that. And at the bottom, he sees that I had written, "I'm getting married." So he's looking at the paper, he's looking at me, he's looking at the paper, he's looking at me. I was like, "Alicia, really?" And I was like, "Yes." Dennis called. He said, "We're getting married on Friday." So he said, he was like, "What?" You said, "It's Friday, let's go for a movie." And Dennis said, "No, actually, let's get married." And I was like, that's what pretty much happened. Okay, now I got into the bride mode. I was like, okay, what do I need to do? I called Dennis and I said, okay, what about the dress? So luckily he found a place from where they could send the dress over to us on time. But again, a big risk because I don't know whether the dress is going to fit me and things.
After I had talked to her over the phone and she confirmed, I called the church to confirm and find out what we needed to do on our part. And they had their limitations, they had their rules and regulations, but the one thing that they specified that we couldn't break was the COVID restrictions, which was no more than 10 people at the church for the occasion. So we figured 5 from her side, 5 from my side, and then we should be good. So for my side, I had my 3 sisters here with their whole families already. That's past 10. So I said, my 3 sisters, right? I said you couldn't bring your significant others because I have only a spot for 5 people, which was a lot to juggle. And then I said my adopted mom, because she'd been great for me my whole life, so I couldn't keep her out of it. If my parents weren't going to be there, she's the one I needed to be there. And mind you, it was COVID, so I didn't know whether she was going to say yes or no, because she had to be careful as well. And then I had one more spot, so I decided to give it to my eldest niece, Seti, because then her being there would represent all my nieces and nephews as well. So that was the 5, and I was like, okay, now I can breathe. People weren't happy, but again, we can't always make everyone happy. So we went, that was the 5 on my end. And then you called your parents.
Yes, I called my parents. So in my family, it's my mom and dad and Evan and Avia, my sibling. At that point, the situation was I didn't know who was gonna come and who was not going to come. So we were still a little on the limbo with my parents' side because of that reason. Anyways, I called them and I let them know, hey, I'm getting married on Friday and I would love for you guys to be there. And my dad mentioned, my grandparents would love to be there. I wanted them to be there as well, but again, we had the restriction. But I talked to Dennis and I was like, do you think we would be able to like call my grandparents? And he was like sure. So I called them back and I said, okay, yes, my grandparents can come too. That was the tentative 5 from my side because again, we weren't sure who exactly was going to come or not from my end.
So from her end, like she mentioned, it was her. We had invited her mom, her dad, her 2 siblings, so that was 4, and she had one more spot. And because of everything that was going on, we figured, inviting her grandparents and going one overboard wouldn't be too bad, so that the grandparents could represent her whole extended family, her cousins, her aunties and uncles, and everyone else. So it ended up being 11 plus us, 12, 13 plus us, 13. So already we were 3 overboard. So that was going to be too much, and we've already broken the rules that the church had to begin with. But we decided not to tell the church. We decided to go ahead with it. If everyone shows up, great. If people can't show up, that's also fine. And then we called some of the most important people that had played a role in us still being together to tell them. So I called my chosen sisters to let them know that, hey, I'm getting married, but unfortunately I can't invite you. But mom is going to be there supporting you guys or representing you guys, so we're all good. I called them. I think they were on their way home from a date night.
Yeah.
So I was on speaker, and then my adopted sister was like, "Oh, that's great. We're so happy for you. It's okay. When you have the big celebration, we'll be there, so there's no worries." Then again, my adopted brother-in-law goes like, "Do you have anyone coming to take pictures? Do you have anyone shooting videos?" I'm like, this is a last minute thing. We don't have time for all that. So no, we're not doing that. He's like, "I can come take pictures." I'm like, we only have 11 people. We're only allowed 10 people, and we've already gone overboard. So it's okay. We'll just pass on that. He's like, no, I'll come take pictures. I'm a photographer, so it doesn't count as being one of your wedding party. I'm like, okay, let's do that. So he's like, I'll call you. We'll set up time and do some pre-wedding shoots and post-wedding shoots. So I'm like, wow, this is getting real deep real fast. Right? That's when again I say they were the same couple that orchestrated the whole engagement video, and they're the same people from Sakagust who are responsible for all the beautiful pictures and videos you get to see from our wedding as well. So I got off the phone with him, and then we got with them, and then I got back on the phone with him at a later time to go over all the pictures and the sequence of the pictures and music and how we're going to get there and everything. So I did that planning with him as well. And this was all we were still on Wednesday, right? And so we had ordered the dress. I think right before we went to bed, but just to give us a buffer so that in case that dress comes and it either doesn't fit or there's something wrong, we're not running around last minute. We decided on Thursday we would go out and go get a couple more options for her to just have, just in case that didn't work out.
So come Thursday, I'm pretty sure I got off work a little bit early because there's no way, and I used to work an hour away from where we live. So I got off work a little early, went with Dennis to shop for some few other options for the wedding dress. And I went ahead and got my nails done. We got home, had dinner. I did, my skincare, all the bridal preparation, I guess. And that I remember that night we were already tucked in bed. The next morning is our wedding day. I told Dennis, I said, and again, like backtracking to the fact where I mentioned that we weren't sure who from my family was going to be there. So I just had that weird feeling in my heart, that, and I told Dennis, I said, tomorrow is one of the biggest days of my life. As a girl, I've always dreamt about my wedding. I've always talked about my wedding. Some of my friends would even say things like, once you get married, what are we going to talk about? Because that's all you talk about. And not knowing for sure that all of my family is going to be there was very difficult, I'll be honest. So, but I just wanted to, like let Dennis know that I will be happy. I will be happy because it's my wedding day. Why would I not be happy? But I wanted to let Dennis know that I was very happy and excited and looking forward to the following day. But that uncertainty that all of my family was not going to be there gave me a bit of a sadness. And anyways, I wanted to let Dennis know, so we talked about it, and we went to bed. The next morning. I got up. Correct me if I'm wrong. Like you woke up around like 3-4 a.m.
Oh, we didn't really go to bed. Spent the whole night crying. So she's not gonna have some of the most important people in her life being present at the event. So then I had to again make some calls to certain people, to see if a last ditch effort could help in convincing a couple of people to be able to attend the wedding. So that's pretty much how I spent my Thursday night before getting married. And mind you, my boss was out with COVID. I had a colleague out with COVID. So work was really busy and I couldn't take off. So I was working pretty much throughout the night and throughout the day. Whilst I was doing the prep, I was working as well. So on Friday came, and I had to wake up early so I could get a little bit of work done before we had to leave for the wedding, and all the prep that I needed for the wedding as well. Getting there.
Come wedding day, so it's Friday morning. We had to be at the church. Like the ceremony would start at 11. But we had coordinated with Nick that we would be there around like 9:30 to take the pre-wedding pictures. So I got up, I started getting ready. I did my own makeup and hair. I was talking to my friends, but I had messaged a few of my friends that I'm getting married on Friday. So I was on call with a lot of my friends, talking to them as I'm getting ready. I got ready. And then by, I believe, 8:39, we had left the house. We left the house. The venue that we were getting married was, about like 35 minutes from where we live. So we got there. Nick met with us there, and we took some beautiful wedding pictures. I'm sure we'll share some of the pictures with you, and we'll also share the wedding video so you'll get to see. But again, I just want to highlight that Nick just went above and beyond. He had also brought somebody else to take the wedding video for us, which we didn't even know, right? Yeah, that was all him. So we took pictures, and around at 11, we went to the church waiting for everyone. By the time everyone got there, It was 11:15. I was at the back of the church and everybody was seated, and then there was the pastor and Dennis, and I was sitting there. I see Dennis like running towards me. So I was like, what happened? And he said, everybody's here. And I'm like, what do you mean? So he goes, everyone from your family is here. Your mom is here, your dad is here, your siblings are here, and your grandparents are here. So I was like, really? So that made me very, very happy. So I went and I greeted everyone, and I went back and I sat down until I got the cue. So the ceremony started 11:15, 11:20. I got my cue. My dad walked me down the aisle, and I saw Dennis, and he was getting teary-eyed, which he which he refuses to agree. But I know, and everybody who was at the wedding knew. He was getting teary-eyed, and the ceremony happened. Everything was, at that time, I was looking at Dennis, I was listening to the pastor, I was looking at our family, and it was just perfect. It was beautiful and just perfect. We took family pictures with my side of the family, Dennis' side of family, the whole group. We went outside and we took more pictures. Monday, like Dennis said, it had snowed, so there was still snow on the ground, and it was freezing. It was freezing for a lot of different things. It wasn't what we had planned. We never wanted to get married in winter, and then there was snow on the ground there. But again, it just felt perfect. Everything worked out, and everything was aligned so perfectly. It just felt in my heart like it was meant to be. This was what was meant to be. So after family pictures and lots of pictures, our families left. His sister had invited us for a quick lunch to our house. Again, we hadn't planned anything, so it was just something casual with his sisters and his side of the family. So we went to their house, had lunch, and by 1:30 we had to come back home because, again, Dennis was working. Well, then we got home, and the last 48 hours was very hectic in many different ways, emotionally, mentally, physically. I know I wanted to take a nap, so I went to take a nap. Dennis had to continue with his work day, so we did that. And that Friday evening, there was a virtual conference we were part of, so we had to attend that. So I remember, and we even have a picture, we were both very tired, so we ordered some Japanese food for dinner, and we had, we were attending the online conference, and then it was the weekend, and the conference went on till Saturday and Sunday, so the entire weekend was a conference weekend. But we enjoyed our time together the whole weekend as husband and wife. We spent some really good time together, and like I said, it was, I think I've said perfect 10 times, but that's what it felt like. It was just perfect, and it was meant to be, and everything just worked out regardless of how little time we had, regardless of how. And oh, by the way, I missed it. The dress arrived luckily on time, and it fit me. It fit me again perfectly, as if somebody had measured and custom made it for me. So the way things happened, and the way things aligned, it was just meant to be.
I know, all this wouldn't have been able to happen without the cathedral and Chris being willing to give us those 2-hour time slots to get us in there. And also a big shout out to Kurt, who married us. It was last minute. He had just lost his I think his dad or his granddad the week before, and I didn't know when I called him to officiate our wedding, but he was so gracious and so willing to be able to do that for us. Forever grateful for you being out there, and you're part of our life for forever.
So, yes, that was our wedding story. Like I always say, thank you so much for all the love and support you give us. And don't forget to
like, comment, and subscribe.
and we'll catch you guys on next video.